Welcome to the Photography Brothers podcast. I am your one of your hosts, Michael Costa. I'm also joined by the one, the only, the guy, the photographer guy, Jared Poirier. Poirier. Is that the correct pronunciation of the last name? I know people mess it up a lot.
Poirier, man. I'll take Poirier.
I got it.
Yeah, that's
I got
good.
it, right? All right.
Poirier, 100%.
Beautiful. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Jared Poirier is here. I'm a guy who likes cameras, and we're here to talk about photography. It's good to be here again with you, Michael Costa. I've got my coffee here, and I'm excited to bring the people another great episode of our podcast here.
Likewise. If you are new to the channel, highly recommend checking out, or not the channel, maybe you're new to the series. Either way, check out some of the early installations of the podcast. You can find that on YouTube, of course, or you can find it on the Spotify's, and we think we have it on the Apples. Apples.
It's on the apples, man. It's confirmed on the apples.
Beautiful. So you can find us in a few different places. We have quite a few episodes that we've kind of put out before this. So check it out. Might have some topics and news stories that you want to hear our takes on. But I think, we usually start off with the topic. And I know, Jared, you had the topic this week. What is it, man?
Yeah, that's what we do here on Photography Brothers. We bring good news stories and we bring good topics. And I think I've got an excellent topic for everybody today, one that I'm very excited about. And I think that this is going to be something, whether you're a photographer, whether you're an artist, whether you're a creative, I think that this one is going to really strike a chord. And today we're talking, do photographers need to know video?
Yeah.
So what do you think, man? Let's just dive right in. What's your opinion on this topic? As someone who, Michael, if you guys don't know, is primarily a photographer. If he's got a camera in his hands, chances are he's going to be shooting photos on it. Your brother Jared's a little bit different. I shoot photos for sure. Definitely, I know there's a little switch on my camera where it goes and then boom, I'm shooting photos, right? So I am primarily a videographer though. So I shoot mostly video, but I do shoot photos as well. So this is why the podcast is a great collaboration, because me and Michael are able to come again from different perspectives and really offer the whole 360 view on our topic here. So let's get into it, man. What do you think? Do photographers need to know video as well?
I'd suggest it for sure. I think that the case is stronger to know, I guess, your way around the camera. I mean, you kind of suggested earlier, like you have the switch, you can switch it on, you have the capability, it's at your fingertips.
Hot tips on Photography Brothers.
Hot tips. There are buttons you can click on your camera to change modes.
Nice.
The way I kind of look at this is two ways. So there is like from a career perspective and like your product offering, and then there's like the promotion side of it. So I think like from a career perspective, certainly we just talked about it a little bit. Like if you have a camera, odds are now even entry level cameras can shoot very good video. So it maybe becomes a question of how comfortable are you with with the format of video? How comfortable are you maybe learning it and working on it on the side and at least integrating it in later on. But I think it's almost this weird thing where as cameras started to build really strong DSLRs, of course, mirrorless, as they started to build and add stronger video capability to the cameras, it's almost like there is this perception from the clients that has also evolved alongside it, where there's almost an assumption that if you take photos, you also capture video. And whether that's good or bad or right or wrong, I don't know. But, it certainly helps when you can say yes. It doesn't necessarily need to be the thing that you lead with. when you're advertising yourself online, when you're creating videos, when whatever, like Jared mentioned earlier, of course I do shoot some video, but I do primarily take photos, and that's, I love photography. And my YouTube channel, of course, is The Growing Photographer, and we speak to different art mediums and whatever, but I think it's good to kind of well verse yourself with what you have available to you, and it can only help as well.
Yeah, certainly, man. And you're right. There are a lot of clients, like I've definitely experienced that. When you're out shooting, they do absolutely expect that you'll be able to do some photos as well. It's a good upsell for you, right? Like if you're able to, like maybe you are marketing the photography thing, but being able to capture a little bit of maybe like behind the scenes video and stuff like that and send it to the client, sometimes they're going to be charging a little bit more for that. Sometimes it's just something that you're even just doing to keep the client happy, right? Like I've been on sets as well where, maybe we're doing a live stream, maybe we're doing a video shoot, and I'm still there. I've got like my other camera or my cell phone, and I'm like shooting photos, shooting video, a little behind the scenes thing. Just send that over to the client. It's come in handy before too. I've like worked it into, I have all this footage. Let me put it together for a little behind the scenes video. We're already paying for the project. Throw a couple more $100 on there, and we'll make that happen. So I think that is really good from a business perspective, and just from the perspective of promoting yourself as a photographer, right? Like just what you were saying, Michael, you have, you're a photographer. That's where you spend the majority of your time. You want to be able to put as much time into that as possible, improving your skills in photography, which I've definitely, The Growing Photographer, we can all see your growth, right? That's the nice thing on the internet here. But yeah, the first thing you mentioned was your YouTube channel, right? In reference to like how you promote yourself as a photographer. So I think that's very interesting. Like, you already have this camera, it's able to capture great photos, but to not use it to promote yourself through YouTube, like using those video capabilities of that same camera. I think you're leaving, leaving a lot of cards on the table, I guess. I don't gamble, so I'm not great with gambling analogies. You're leaving chips. You're leaving chips on the table.
Leaving chips. I think that's a good one. Yeah, chips.
You're probably leaving some cards or some chips, or I could have just said money. Now that I think about it, I kind of sabotaged myself. I could have just said you're leaving money.
That's fair. No, that's all right, man. We're with you. I think
man,
you're right.
That's ringing true, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, to your point, like everyone knows who Gary Vee is. He says it all the time. Everyone's a marketing agency now. Regardless of what you are a marketing agency. And that's because in today's age, it's as easy as it is to create and produce content and build a business in comparison to earlier on. It's also harder to stand out. And so you want to be able to exist on as many platforms as possible, and especially on the platforms where people's eyes are at right now. When you think about that, right? And sometimes it's not just the platform in its initial purpose, but sometimes it's additional features. You talk about Instagram TV. You talk about, again, now we talk about TikTok, primarily a video platform. Obviously we talked about in reference YouTube, you referenced that. I think, it's hard to stand out. So you gotta put yourself in as many positions to be discovered, and as many places that to be discovered. I'm not saying that right, but you want to be discovered. All right. So put your face in front of as many people as you can, and especially when it's the platforms that are sticking out. And if it's video, maybe you learn a little bit, and maybe you apply a little bit of what and like you mentioned before, behind the scenes. You see a lot of that stuff on TikTok right now. People are shooting some really interesting video, and they're showing how they do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that doesn't need to be some crazy masking technique or anything like that. It could just simply be a camera, sit down, you talking to a camera, being like, hey, this is what I did. I'm doing this. We're going to pan it. We're going to do this. And then you can show the post effect. Right. And honestly, that can be enough. And at least you're there and you exist.
Oh yeah,
right?
man. that's some of my favorite type of content, like when people are showing
Yeah.
the behind the scenes of how they capture a photo. I mean, that's pretty much what's kept me from like deleting Instagram from my phone. It's like those types of videos, and I'm like, oh, awesome, okay, they did like a cool light trail thing or some type of cool motion blur thing, and it's like, oh, or a cool transition or something, and I'm like
Right.
checking that out. But yeah, I want to drill down on what you said as well. Like, you kind of touched a little bit on like how you're able to take what you've learned with photography and then kind of move that into video and vice versa. And yeah, I think that's a very strong point, man, and definitely something that I wanted to get to here is like from my personal experience as well, just how much that rings true and how much you absolutely need to apply that. The more that I learn about photography, like let's say that I have to take some product photos or like lifestyle photos, whether it's for a client or for my own project or something that I'm doing with Masha for our e-commerce store or something like that. It's like the point that I want to make here is it's all the same kind of, right? It's all just light. It's all light going through glass, getting onto sensors. And a video is really just like 30 photos a second or whatever, right? Or 24, whatever frame rate that you happen to be using. So for me, like every time that I shoot a video, I don't view it as like I'm just getting better at video. It's like I'm getting better at like capturing the world, right, with my camera. So there's a lot of bleed in between those two things. And I actually we started recording the podcast about 10 minutes late here. I was doing a little bit of last minute research just to give you guys a little behind the scenes. And what I was looking up is a very famous example of exactly what I'm talking about here. So you've seen The Matrix, correct, Michael Costa?
Oh, of course I have.
The Matrix, right? You know that scene in The Matrix where they do they use it a few times in the movie, but the first time they use the bullet time effect when they're on the roof.
Yes.
Neo's getting shot at. He's leaning backwards, right? So
gotcha.
So The Matrix obviously is a movie. They're using video cameras, but in that scene, there aren't video cameras. So that scene was captured with photography. Neo himself is really the only thing in that environment that's real. The thing he's standing on is fake. Everything around him is fake. It's Neo on a green screen with 120 cameras capturing stills all around him to create the illusion that there's a floating camera going around Neo in this scene, right? And there's a little bit of other trickery going on. There's some like interpolation and frames being added and things like that. But I just thought that this was a perfect example of how you would do this, right? Like each camera is firing like a few milliseconds after the other, and they're all spaced out perfectly to create that like 24 frames a second or whatever after they do the interpolation or whatever. So I thought that was incredibly interesting and really illustrates the point, right? That it's all really the same thing. Like you have to open your mind beyond that. They were like, how do we achieve this with cameras? Whether we're shooting video or whether we're shooting stills, it's essentially the same thing, right? You're just using a camera.
That's exactly right. Yeah. No, you mentioned it, like, it's lighting, it's your rule of thirds, it's it's all the same composition and lighting practices for the most part. Of course, motion is introduced, but I mean, especially depending on what you're shooting, you might be able to transition into video very quickly. If you're someone who perhaps shot a lot of actions, you shoot action sports in sports. You're used to capturing motion, and actually in a lot of ways it can be more difficult. You're trying to nail that shot. Sometimes it's that pass being tossed and you getting that shot of just before he catches the ball or just as he gets tackled, or maybe it's soccer and it's just as it's going in, but you're used to capturing motion. You're just freezing it. Which sounds weird, but it's depending on again what you shoot, it might be easy for you to transition. So if you're on the fence and you find that you capture footage that requires you to be very spot on with high fast paced motion, I think you'll be fine, especially if it's, I mean, look, I mean, when it comes to this kind of platform, and we refer to promoting earlier on, you know, realistically, anyone can do it. You know, you know, if you have your camera, you know, with practice, it looks better, it sounds better, it's, you know, you come across better in how you speak, you know. You know, Jared's been making videos for a long time. I've been making videos for a long time. My videos were poo-poo in the beginning, and how, you know, my comfort level ultimately, I feel like it is what determines that, right? When, of course, like anything, you start doing it, you're not confident in it. Repetition, practice. You know, now we get to this point now, and I'm at a point where I feel like I'm comfortable enough just looking straight through a camera lens. It used to intimidate me like crazy, but I can look into it, and I know I'm talking to Jared, and I'm having just a conversation, and it's almost like the lens isn't there. It's just a process I know I have to look through, and I can just articulate my thoughts and put them out, just like as you would when you're having a conversation with your buddy. And that's pretty much what we're doing here. And so, you know, if you're intimidated with that idea of you know, I don't know, you know, you're getting in your head, I don't know if I'm going to come across as an expert, or if I'm going to come across as this, you know, carve out what you want to do and say in your content. If we're talking about promotion and creating, you know, video content as well, and then just do it, and with repetition you'll get comfortable.
Yeah, and that's the type of stuff that I like to watch, right? Like if you want to put out interesting content, so many people like are making the mistake these days of having to be that expert, right? And this ties in very well with what we're talking about. Like some people are like just purely, oh, I'm just a videographer. And then if you like ask them to shoot a photo, they're like intimidated to do it. Like, and that's just like, to me, such the wrong approach, right? The content that I like to watch, I don't want to watch someone who's done the thing 1,000 times and then he comes out and is like, this is exactly how you do it. I want to see someone like try something, challenge themselves, do something that's never been done before, right? Like if you can, if you're able to produce a video or some type of effect or some type of photo that hasn't been seen, like that is so much more interesting to me than just like playing it safe, right? And yeah, like just, you're really, if you're niching down so much, and I guess it sounds weird to be like just being a photographer is too niche, but I feel like in a way it kind of is, and you're just cutting yourself off from opportunities, like opportunities for work. If someone needs someone who can shoot video and photo, definitely. But also you're just cutting yourself off from growth, right? Like to be afraid of something on your camera, like just what we were joking about earlier, like switching that video to photo mode, right? Or vice versa. And just being afraid of that, not knowing like in your camera, where your frame rate settings are and things like that, right? And there's a lot of people who take that approach, and I know a lot of them, right? Like there's photographers that I know who are like that. And, you know, you're like, oh, you're a great photographer. You know, how are you getting shoots? Oh, I'm not. Oh, do you have a YouTube channel? No, I don't. Do you have Instagram? I don't. I'm a photographer. Well, listen, man, like if you want to keep being relevant and you want to keep getting work, these are kind of the rules of the game, right? And it's the same thing. Yeah, they just hold themselves back. I've heard photographers say as well, like they don't like to post on Instagram because of the way that they like down sample your photos. And it's like, well, you know, I see that point of view, right? I get that. You want people to be seeing your photos like the way that you took them with like, you know, a certain number of megapixels or whatever. But these are the rules of the game right now. So if you don't want to get left behind, I think you know, you need to try to get ahead.
Yeah, just my last point here I wanted to add was, you know, as you were talking, you really sparked another thing here.
That's what we do. That's what we do here on the Brothers.
We bounce, man. We bounce. We you know, we're in a pandemic. If you were strictly a photographer, and we actually highlighted a story recently about right, he was an event photographer, a wedding photographer. He lost almost a lot of his business, right? Exactly. And you know, so definitely go and check that out. But you know, he had to make a change, a pivot, and he was casually doing YouTube. Every once in a while he'd upload a video, and he started taking it seriously, and now it's become, I don't know if I would say, maybe going forward it won't be, but at least at the moment, his primary source of income.
Yeah.
And so, being able to grow, and really that's the point that, you brought up, and it really sparked something, is being able to grow in like, especially in today's world, where a lot of the information's at our fingertips and it's so easy to consume and learn. And so I feel like it's so easy for us to understand principles and camera techniques, and every person has 4 or 5 videos on their channel with like trips and ticks and trips and yeah, anyways, what I'm saying.
Tricks and tips.
Tips and tricks is where the words I'm looking for. Look, we're not talking about English classes, okay? We're talking about online content, and there's a lot of it out there. And so you kind of get to this point where you're already really comfortable with your camera. And so, like, why not just like Jared said, and we've said a few times already, hit that button, flick that switch, get familiar with it, right? There's no harm in doing so.
Certainly. Yeah. So I don't know, man. This has been a really great conversation. I think you and I definitely agree on this one. You can tell that from the stuff that's coming out of our mouth right now. But you can also tell that if you just like look at what we do, right, at our careers. Like, both of us take photos. We have a podcast about photography. We also both have YouTube channels. So yeah, like, not that me and Michael are millionaires, not yet at least, but definitely, definitely two dudes who are trying out here, trying to get ahead, trying to distinguish ourselves from the other sea of creators. And we practice what we preach here on the Photography Brothers. So if we're sitting here and we're saying like, yo, you got to challenge yourself, you got to learn every single thing on your camera. Like, there shouldn't be anything in the menu that's like foreign to you. You got to know how to change your frame rates. You got to know how to, all of these different settings and stuff like that. Knowing how to shoot photos isn't enough anymore from where I'm sitting in this chair. So. Yeah. All right. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Should we go into the news?
I think we should. All right. So, we have a news topic that is coming in from yours truly. This is something I saw come across, and as a fan of sports, this came across, and I thought it was interesting as a nice little hybrid between two things that I find very interesting. So you may have, Jared, you may have heard about this as well. Of course, there was a lawsuit with LeBron James and a photographer.
I've heard about it because you sent me the article and I read it on my phone.
That is correct. Yeah, I said it, and then I said, of course, at the end, because I'm like, of course he knows. I told him.
he might read the materials that I sent him to prep for the podcast.
Yeah. See, I appreciate you.
No problem, man.
So I have a few sources here, just to kind of paint the picture properly. But according to The Athletic, so the Los Angeles Lakers superstar LeBron James is settling a lawsuit that accused him of misappropriating for his social media feed a photograph of him dunking. Okay. So sounds kind of strange at first, but, Mitchell, the name of the photographer, and we'll get you his full name so you can check him out. He's actually a pretty talented guy. But Mitchell filed a claim in court for I believe it was $150,000 for each time that he used the photo. Okay. Now, really, his claim here is that, it's a copyright claim. He didn't get permission. There was no exchange of information or contact regarding him using that photo. And so anyways, LeBron James actually countersued him with $1 million and attorney fees. And, recently it was settled. The information regarding that has not been established. It's not it's being kept private, so it's not public. They it just says here, it's done. They it can't be returned back to court. It's officially settled. You know, thing I found really interesting here is, there are some, and maybe this depends on your skill level or your how established you are, perhaps. But maybe if you are a photographer and you're newer to the game, maybe you've been shooting for the Lakers for a year, or maybe you are just like a press guy. You came and LeBron posts your photo. Okay. How do you react to that versus someone who is, I'm assuming, like this guy who is,
Steve,
very established.
Steve Mitchell,
right?
is his name, the photographer.
Steve Mitchell. Thank you. Thank you. So it maybe if you're established, you take this approach, right? Maybe it's a precedence thing. But what if you're new to the game, Jared? What if you're new to the game? Do you look at this and go, hey, can you just make sure you mention me? Because this could be really big for me. It's this weird line.
Yeah, man. This news story is a mess, frankly.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I'm glad that we're talking about it here. I think it's a really good PHOTOBROS topic. It has that nice intersection of like the art of photography, the like career of photography, the business of photography, as well as, kind of an exciting environment of this stuff with LeBron James and the Lakers, which is like, it hurt me to read this because I am very inspired by LeBron James, as someone who is a fan of basketball. Not that I'm like at every single freaking game here or I constantly am thinking about basketball, but it's a big part of my life. I've played a lot of basketball. I've watched a lot of basketball, been to some Raptors games and whatnot. And quite frankly, LeBron James is a very inspiring person to me, not just because of the fact that he's like stayed on top of the game for all of these years, but just his public persona and the fact that he like gives back, right? He's starting these schools, he's doing all this charitable work in a situation where a lot of people would just like, they just ball out, right? They just buy a yacht or whatever. But he probably has a yacht too, but he's giving back here. And this photographer, I mean, I feel for him as well. He's a career photographer. He's out there every single day. He's on the front lines. He's getting published in ESPN and all these different magazines and whatnot. And clearly working hard, clearly trying to perfect his craft. Obviously, he took a good photo if LeBron James posted on his frickin' Instagram, right?
That's right.
But I just feel like everyone's coming off bad here. I feel like the suing LeBron, I'm not gonna come out here and like give Steve Mitchell like legal advice. But I've had copyright disputes before. This isn't really how you should handle it. I think that LeBron James countersuing him also not great. And I think the league just comes off terribly here. Like from the NBA, like, what are you guys doing? Right. And I think this is really like, this whole thing is just a misunderstanding of like social media and these things that are emerging. I think like LeBron was probably thinking like, yo, it's just a picture. I'm just going to put it on my Instagram. Which for a lot of people, it's just like, it's just a picture, put it on your Instagram. Who cares? But when you're at that level, like, from the photographer's perspective, that freaking sucks, man. You're putting the photo up there and you're making tons of money off of it. Right. And maybe it's not direct, and it's a photo of you, but still, man, I can see where the dude's coming from. I just think that this whole thing could have been dealt with way better. And now like LeBron is trying to get into court and he's having to cancel court dates because he's got Lakers games and things like this. It's just a mess. And I feel like number one, like this starts with the league. The league should have rules regarding this. Like how is that not a thing? How do they not have a thing where like, okay, there's usage rights. The players have usage rights of the photos. They have this, and this. They can put it on their Instagram. We're going to pay you this, and this. And then maybe the players or the teams themselves are putting some money into the fund to pay the photographers. Like how this is being left, it's being left to the players and the freaking photographers to hash it out in court. Like this is absurd. This is absurd. And it looks really bad on the league here. And that's my take on this.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. Like the NBA, I mean, that really should be a conversation that is had. Maybe it's with the draft rookies when they come in, or something. There needs to be. It can't
Yeah.
just be maybe a guideline on a contract that gets skimmed over or whatever. It needs to be understood because look, I mean, we just saw the extent that it can go.
Yeah.
Right. This is a year-long lawsuit finally settled, but you know, it's
And how was it settled in the, I guess
we don't
LeBron
know.
just took all the stuff. From what I could tell, it looks like LeBron just stopped using the photo and
Okay.
they stopped suing each other as far as I could
They
tell.
okay. So as far as like the financials and stuff,
Yeah.
I checked a few different sources. They said that that's not being is not public. So
Okay. Maybe
he
there's
probably
like some, yeah.
maybe you're
Oh,
right. Maybe I think part of it is maybe as part of the agreement is that he takes down the photo for now.
and maybe there's some money going, like being exchanged out of court. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting is, obviously reading through this, want to get a few different sources. Lakers Daily, I kind of expected to be a bit more biased, but they, in the first paragraph of the article certainly did seem so, but the way they capped it off was interesting. They said, James settling this lawsuit might set a precedent for high-profile athletes and celebrities when it comes to copyright infringement. The four-time NBA champion will definitely think twice before doing this again, and his experience could make others take notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's interesting. One other question I had for you regarding this story, I want your input on it. What do you think I mean, like you said, this could have been handled better. How do you think the impact on this photographer, what do you think the impact on this photographer is going to be? Is there going to be, is it going to hurt him down the line? Does it help him down the line?
That's really interesting, man. I guess it helps him in the immediate, I guess. Maybe. Yeah. Depending. I mean, we don't know. Yeah, I guess it depends on if there was money sent to him and how much money that was, I suppose. Whether this helps him or not. Having this public dispute with somebody as high profile, as admired as LeBron James is, like, I don't know, man. When the dude's trying to negotiate, like next time he's got to negotiate with, I don't know, Kevin Durant about a photo, like, KD's not going to be coming to the table, assuming that the man's operating in good faith, right? So I feel like Steve is going to have a bit of a reputation now as the type of person who's starting these legal disputes and stuff like that. From a business perspective, man, that's not the type of people that I want to be working with. So if I'm KD, which, like, me and KD, we have a lot in common. I'm looking to license some other dudes' photos, right? I'm like, oh, who else was courtside that day? Oh, Steve Mitchell. He's that dude that tried to screw LeBron. I'm not going to talk to him.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to Mitchell Steve over here, his cousin or whatever. So,
that's right.
Like that's kind of how I'm viewing this, man. Like, the way I operate, I like to stay out of legal trouble. You have, and the way that you do that is you have your contracts in place. And, you have the usage rights. If I shoot a photo and I sell it to somebody, I have portfolio rights and things like that. And, the way that they're allowed to use the photo is certain ways. And, sometimes in the contracts, I'll even maintain rights to the photo and things like that. Right. And these are things that you hash out before you hit that shutter, right? Like, before you're out there shooting. And that's my point of view, man. That's why I was saying that, like, I can't believe the league doesn't have guidelines for this. Like, I don't know. So I think it hurts them, honestly. To answer your question, in the long run, I think that this hurts them, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, that's largely where I was trying to go earlier with, depending on how established he is, maybe he feels like he's got nothing to prove from a career perspective, and he's just trying to set that principle. But certainly I think having your content highlighted by probably the top 3 biggest athletes in the world. One of them is you can't pay for that kind of marketing, that kind of promotions. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it depends on where he's at in his career, but I find it hard to believe that um, that was the right decision to make.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oddly reminiscent of the conversation that we had around the famous Bernie Mittens meme photo shot by Brendan Smolowski, how he talked about everything around that, how the image was being used, how he didn't necessarily like how the image was being used and things like that. So yeah, it drills back to that thing of, you know, the relation of the artist to their art, right? Of the photographer to the photo. And yeah, I mean, two very different cases here, but in both cases, like the guy's taking the photo and it's being used in a certain way. And yeah, there's so many things that are kind of cutting in there, right? There's like technology, there's the law, there's all of these different layers that you need to be able to be able to manage as a creative, right? So yeah, that's what we're here to do, and that's why I think that this was a perfect episode to highlight here. And again, tying back into the rest of the episode, you know, just to bring it all together in a nice, neat package. We're talking about diversifying your skills, being able to shoot photos, being able to shoot video, being able to understand contracts, being able to negotiate legal and business matters. Also very important if you want to have success. So yeah, man, I love the news story here. Very, very enlightening. You know, I wish LeBron well. I wish this other dude, Steve Mitchell, well. I hope that both of them continue to have success in their careers. We'll probably be keeping a closer eye on LeBron's than Steve's, but
well, I mean, I hope LeBron has success, but you know, if our Raps go mitt to mitt,
go Raps,
you know, we're going Raps, you know,
go Raps, obviously. Screw the Lakers, obviously, bro. I'm just saying. And LeBron, listen, man, like next time you like a photo, why don't you text message them on Instagram, man. I message famous photographers on Instagram all the time. Message them.
Or
be like, yo,
tell your assistant.
For sure. Ask your assistant to message him on Instagram. And ask him, like, can I use this photo on my thing? He'll probably say, yeah, you know, maybe give me a little money for it or something like that. But work those things out. Don't just start doing a bunch of stuff and then end up in court. Like nobody wants that.
Correct.
Is that the show?
I think that's the show, man.
That's the show, man. Well, it's been a good one. Been an excellent episode of Photography Brothers. Definitely an enlightening one from my perspective. I really enjoyed speaking on all of this with you, Michael. So thank you for being here. Any housekeeping we need to do before we get out of here?
You know, definitely check out. You know, we've referenced quite a few of the videos in the podcasts that we've done earlier on. You know, we've had a few episodes of Photography Brothers so far, so definitely go back, check them out. We've had some good topics that we referred to in this episode. So,
this is our
he's throwing them up. Eighth one. So, to check out the other ones. We just love having these conversations, and we just. You know, we love being able to record it and produce it and put it out and have it be content. But, you know, let us know in the comment down below. You know, maybe we should ask a question.
Hey, that's an idea.
Where are some photography business blind spots for you right now?
Yeah, what are some things that you want to improve in your own photography, whether that's on the art side or the business side? Definitely let us know down in the comments. If you're watching here on YouTube, that's not your only option anymore, folks. We've got the show up on Spotify. We are on iTunes, and for the time being, we're gonna keep doing it here on YouTube. It's a little bit more work to do it with the video, but I think it makes it better, and it's a better experience. And I like using my camera a lot. It's beautiful. I'm looking at it right now. It says Canon on there. I'm like,
that part, I don't know.
We can put some tape over that there. Pretend it's a Sony, right? Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we'll let you guys get out of here. Make sure that you follow the podcast on all the stuffs. We are coming back next week with another excellent episode of Photography Brothers, and we can't wait to see you all then.